Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Sorry it's taken me so long to post another video. For those of you who tuned into my first video, you may be aware that I was studying for a major board exam, and thank God it is done. And so at this point, I am into my M3 orientation. I apologize if my voice seems a little off. I'm going through some bad allergies right now. But I'll definitely fill you guys in a later video more about the step one process and getting through that. But for this video, I felt compelled to talk a little bit more about race and being a black person in the medical field. And for those of you who know me, I hate controversy and race is definitely a controversial topic. So it's kind of something that's really uncomfortable for me to talk about, but I just feel really passionate about this personally. And so I felt like it would be something good to kind of put out there. I'm currently, I guess I would say, a third year medical student. Since I just took this board exam, it's kind of weird to say at this point. But I would say that regarding race, the reason why this topic came up, and I'll call the title of this video, "Are You Really in Medical School?" It's because I feel like that's kind of the reaction I get a lot of times when I meet people and they find out that I am pursuing a career as a physician. And honestly, when I do meet people, just kind of wherever I go, when I'm meeting new people, sometimes I'm even kind of hesitant to tell people what sort of profession I'm pursuing, because I kind of dread the sort of reaction that I get from people. And I don't like I said, I don't like controversy, and I don't playing the race card and saying that that's the reason for the way things happen. But sometimes I can't help but think about that based off of some of the reactions I get at times to telling people more about what I do on a daily basis. And so I've been told that for instance, I'll give you an example. I might go somewhere where I might meet people, and somehow conversations come up about what everyone kind of does for a living. And if someone was to ask me oh, what do you do on a daily basis, I might get and I'll tell people oh yeah, I'm in medical school, trying to be a doctor. A lot of times some of the reactions I get are oh, you mean pre-med, or you mean nursing, or are you an undergrad? And so I don't know, it's kind of, and there's no offense to anyone who is pursuing different careers or in different stages, but when I clearly say I'm a medical student, it's kind of usually taken really, you're in medical school, did you mean something different? And so it's kind of man, you don't, when you see me, do you see a future physician? I know there are not many people who look like me who are pursuing the career field that I've chosen. And so it's kind of a hard thing to deal with. And I try to a lot of times kind of shake it off, or kind of laugh it off and just be yeah, I'm actually trying to become a doctor. And so I don't know if other people who are also minorities have experienced similar things, but it's just kind of frustrating. And also sometimes people seem very, very, very surprised, when they do find out that I'm pursuing medical school. And sometimes I really do think that that's genuine, and people are just really happy for me. But then other times I can't help but wonder if I wasn't a black female, would you really be as surprised, or would it just be a simple oh, congratulations? So yeah, I think that as a black woman pursuing medicine, no matter how much you don't want to think about race being a factor, or how much you don't want to think about being different from what everyone else, it's something that's constantly in the back of your mind, something that I'm sure will follow me throughout the rest of my career. And so I also think that, like, with that being said, like, every, Black person, every, minority in medical school is going to kind of have a different experience. So I'm not speaking from the perspective of, like, of course, like, all Black people in med school. Like, I'm not, like, a representative for the race whatsoever. But I just kind of wanted to share my perspective on the issue. And also I would say kind of like upbringing definitely like plays a role on your perspective on this issue. I would say that, like, for me, I mainly grew up in a lot of different environments where I was a minority, so I think that that kind of plays a role in my perspective. But yeah, in general, I would just say, like, it was something that I wanted to comment on because it is like something that I go through on a daily basis. And I think that, like, in medical school, it's already like really, really challenging and really hard. And it's like something where you're like constantly having to grow and learn, and you're constantly humbled. And so it's like really hard to be like super confident as a medical student in general. Like, I think regardless of race, because you're always like faced with different challenges that you're gonna have to meet, and you're never gonna be like great and amazing at everything. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who are, but I'm definitely not one of those people. And so I think that, like, staying confident in myself is also like a daily challenge. And microaggressions do not help at all with helping me to maintain my confidence in this pathway, but it's also something that's not really in my control. So I try to focus on things that are in my control. And so some of those things that I would say are really important, regardless of race, but especially as like a Black female in medicine, I would say, for one, like, I have always enjoyed reading, and I am constantly reading and reading and reading. So I would say, for those of you out there who are considering pursuing like higher education in general, just like keep your head in the books or resources or whatever you use. Like, always kind of get different perspectives on different things, and just try to learn as much as possible from all your different experiences, from people of all different backgrounds. Just try to just be a sponge and just soak in as much information as you can. I would also say, like, always just try to do your best, and whatever you do, try to present yourself as well as you can. Like, you're not always going to be on point with everything, but don't fault yourself for that either. And I would also say, like, I do identify as a Christian, and so, but my spirituality and my strength and my faith in God has definitely wavered at times. So I think, like, kind of reconnecting with God is like really important, to kind of gain confidence in myself and in my journey and what I'm doing. And also connecting with other believers is very important. So that is like another source of strength that I gather, like, when times are really hard. And then lastly, I would say just kind of like, and this is something that I'm still kind of working on a daily basis, is just constantly assessing like what I define as success. Like, to me, is success solely based off of my exam scores, or is it based off of like how healthy I am at the end of a block, how well I'm able to balance like my personal life, social life, academic life, because it's hard to keep all those balls in the air at one time. So like, I think that for me, when I first came into medical school, I tend to be like really like perfectionist mindset sort of ideology, which isn't always the healthiest. And so I've kind of had to reframe my thinking to not feel as stressed out as I, can get. And so, of course, I want to do well and everything. And of course, like, I want to get those high scores and stuff. But at times I have to think, like, am I willing to sacrifice some hours of studying to, like, go on a jog, get some exercise, cook some food for myself, watch my weight, go to church. Like, these are all things that are like so important. And from what I've heard, like, talking to mentors who are physicians, like, the habits that you form now will be the basis of, like, I think, your career in the future. So I'm trying, like, as best I can to, like, try to form some good habits now. And it's not like I always do the best job at it, but it's definitely something that I'm, like, working on. So yeah, and that's pretty much all I wanted to share for today. Feel free to leave any comments or questions based off of anything I've talked about. I know I threw out that word microaggressions earlier, and from what I understand, sometimes it's just like the little things that can happen on a day to day that, you know, are not necessarily blunt racism or, you know, someone's intentional means of like hurting your feelings or anything like that. But sometimes it's just like the little offhanded things that kind of get to you. And that can really build up if you don't really, I guess, think about it or address in your mind how you're going to handle it. So anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Please subscribe, and I look forward to updating you guys more on my journey as I go along. Thanks.